Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Upskill Prize, the Solar Manufacturing Workforce Informational webinar. We're going to give folks a moment to get logged in and get settled, so we'll begin the presentation momentarily. Thanks. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Once again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the American-Made Upskill Prize for the Solar Manufacturing Workforce Informational webinar. My name is Jackie on the NREL Prize team, and I'm going to be supporting technical side of today's webinar. So just wanted to go over a few quick housekeeping items. We are recording today's presentation. We will make a copy of the recording and the slides available in the coming days. You can find those on HeroX. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to enter those in the Q&A tab. That should be at the bottom of your screen. We ask that you try to put questions in the Q&A tab rather than the chat, just so we don't lose track of anything, but we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. With that, I'm going to hand things over to Rebecca Bennett, who is the NREL Prize lead for the Upskill Prize.
Thanks, Jackie. And echoing Jackie, welcome everyone to the Upskill Prize for the Solar Manufacturing Workforce. We're very excited to have you all here. I am one of the prize leads for this prize, and I'm very excited to dive right in, and we'll get moving. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to go over what the prize is, the goals of the prize, the general timeline. We'll cover the background of the prize. You will hear from the Department of Energy today on those various topics. Then I'll jump in. We'll go over the prize submission requirements, so what you'll be required to upload. I will go over our HeroX platform, which is where you'll submit. And then, of course, we'll have time for questions at the end. And just to repeat it again, we will record. We are recording, and we will share this recording with you as well as the slides. They will be available on our HeroX page. And so to start off, in case you are unfamiliar with the American-Made challenges, we do just want to give you that quick overview. The Upskill Prize is one of 80 prizes in the American-Made program. The American-Made program is the fast track to the clean energy revolution. It is funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, and we incentivize innovation through all kinds of prizes covering all kinds of topics, as well as access to training, teaming, and mentoring, with the goal of connecting entrepreneurs and innovators to America's national labs and the private sector. With that, we always want to give the context, because we get this question a lot about what is a prize. Many people are familiar with grants. Grants, generally speaking, are the most common, or at least most familiar type of funding that you can get from the Department of Energy. And they do have all of these steps, from writing and submitting your papers, going through multiple reviews, and then like full applications followed by negotiations before you even start performing. And this can take quite a long time. And so the American-Made challenges, we have a prize structure where we're awarding you for work that is already done. You don't have to jump through kind of the hoops required of the grant process. Rather, you're just going to achieve a predefined goal of the prize, which we'll outline today for the Upskill Prize, and complete a submission package, which will then be scored, and winners will receive a cash payment with no strings attached to push their idea forward. And so let's dive into the Upskill Prize. To go over this, I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer DiStefano.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. And hello, everyone. My name is Jen DiStefano. I am a technology advisor at the Department of Energy working on the Upskill Prize. And so wanted to give you some more details today about the Upskill Prize. If we can go on to the next slide. This prize is a $5 million prize competition that is designed to accelerate the historic expansion of the US solar module manufacturing supply chain and the workforce needed to support that supply chain. So really focusing on equipping workers with the skills needed to grow the US solar manufacturing industry. One of the goals of this prize is for US manufacturers to work with training organizations to develop and execute workforce training plans based on the specific needs of the manufacturer. And I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. The prize is intended to supplement, not replace, manufacturer existing work training plans and budgets, and also can be applied to workforce training for facilities that are either under development or existing facilities, manufacturing facilities, that is. Finally, I'll say this prize focuses specifically on workforce in the module supply chain, and also that we're anticipating opening a new round of the prize every 4 to 6 months, with that total prize pool again across the rounds being that $5 million. If we can go on to the next slide then, to sort of put it in maybe a different way, the primary goals of the prize, we would really say, are to grow that US module manufacturing industry by ensuring that there is a trained workforce available. Also to foster collaboration between US PV module manufacturers and training organizations in order to develop those workforce training plans. And finally, also to attract individuals who are new to the solar workforce, and particularly those from historically underserved backgrounds, to pursue careers in solar manufacturing through job-ready training programs and upskill opportunities. On to the next slide to give a little bit more detail on how this is structured. Those teams of manufacturers and training organizations will work together in order to propose a workforce training plan. And here I want to be clear that training organization really can be broadly defined. This is detailed in our rules document, but examples of training organizations could be something like a community college, a union apprenticeship program, or even an equipment manufacturer that maybe provides specialized training for their equipment. And the prize is really designed to be flexible based on the training needs and the workforce needs of the manufacturer and who makes sense the most as the best training partner for that program. So the prize team can also consist of more than 2 organizations, and I'll show an example of what that might look like in a moment. And that payment for the prize can be split up to 3 ways if that team were to apply and win with a 3-part team. And finally, in terms of the content of that training plan developed by the team, it can focus on either incumbent training for incumbent workers at a facility, or recruiting and training new workers, or both of those. So if we go to the next slide, I think to really define this a little better, we have some examples of how this prize can take various shapes based on those training needs of the manufacturer and the capabilities available at that training organization. So depending on the details of this partnership, the members of the prize team would propose how to split the prize money if they are selected. So for example, one way that this could evolve is, say, a new cell facility wants to work with a community college in order to hire and train new operators. And in this case, the manufacturer would focus on hiring the community college, they would focus on the hiring element, and the community college would focus on the training element of this example. Or you could imagine a university maybe could offer a solar technology or manufacturing course that would serve existing employees at a manufacturing facility that they partner with. And the final example is a 3-part team, which, like I said, are possible, where, for instance, you could have a solar glass manufacturer who's offering a new hire certification program through a training center. And then they would also maybe want to provide specialized equipment training through a manufacturing equipment vendor, which would be, in this case, considered a training organization in this example. So in this case, again, that cash prize would be split between all three of those participating organizations. So if we go on to the next slide to dive into eligibility a little bit more, excuse me, the competition is open to private entities, non-federal government entities, and academic institutions. And this team that applies to the prize must be led by either a US-based PV manufacturer or a US-based training organization. And either of those entities can lead depending on that workforce training plan proposed. So we are specifically, again, looking for manufacturers in the team to be in the PV module supply chain, such as those technologies that are listed here on this slide. If a manufacturer is the team lead, then a US-based manufacturer would partner with a training organization to execute this workforce training plan that meets the needs of the manufacturer. If in the event that a training organization is the lead on a prize team, then the training organization should build a comprehensive workforce training plan with the specific needs of the US-based manufacturer in mind and work with that manufacturer who's willing, able, and responsible for implementing the training program to their workforce in their manufacturing facility. A letter of commitment is required by whichever team member is not the lead. So if the team lead is a US-based manufacturer, then a letter of commitment from a training organization is required and vice versa. And finally, I'll note that non-US based training organizations may participate as team members, but the prize payment must go to US based team members. On to the next slide to look at the timeline. So this prize will be, is anticipated to be awarded in multiple rounds over a series of months. Additional rounds for this prize will be announced and scheduled until the available funding is awarded. So organizations can also submit multiple submissions over the course of the prize to different rounds. And organizations may win the prize multiple times as long as they demonstrate progress and development in their training programs. And so finally, I want to end with the important dates for this round of the prize. Right now, you are at the informational webinar. Thank you for joining today. Please follow the prize on HeroX and start working on your submission if you're interested in submitting. Our deadline for round one, which is what we're in right now, is May 21st. And we are anticipating those round one winner announcements to be July or August, and potentially launching a round two of the prize this fall. With that, then I will hand it over to my colleague Tim to go into more of the background for the prize.
Thanks. Like Jen, I'm a contractor technical advisor for the U.S. Department of Energy, and I wanted to provide a little bit of information on the background for the prize, specifically why we're offering this prize now. The Inflation Reduction Act, which was signed in 2002, really kickstarted the U.S. solar manufacturing boom, which we've seen develop over the past 1.5 years. We've seen up to 104 gigawatts of module manufacturing announced, and up to 140 gigawatts of other PV supply chain segments being announced over that span of time. Those investments are totaling over $14 billion. Even if a fraction of those announcements come to actual production, it's a substantial increase in the solar manufacturing capacity of this country. Despite that growth and despite all of those announcements, we do feel that the solar manufacturing workforce in the United States lacks trained labor, which hinders industry expansion and hinders the ability to realize all of that potential. We conducted a request for information last year, seeking input from manufacturers, and we heard that the US PV supply chain in particular has workforce development needs, from line workers all the way up to factory management, engineering skills, specialized equipment skills. All of these workforce aspects are not present in the workforce as we perceive it. And so we are, hoping to achieve some of that workforce development and have folks receive the trainings they need in order to successfully unlock that manufacturing capacity. In particular, the PV supply chain, when we're talking polysilicon, ingot, wafer, cell modules, and module components like glass, have needs for their specialized skills and equipment operation that are not found in other parts of the manufacturing space in the United States. In particular, balance of systems is generally transferable from other industries, and that's why in the rules of this prize, we are limiting training plans to manufacturers located within the USPV supply chain in particular. You'll find that information in the rules as well. Next slide, please. We see, enormous need, like I said, to recruit, train, and support the solar manufacturing workforce, but we also want to couch this support within the Biden administration's Justice 40 initiative, which ensures access to federal resources for overburdened and underserved communities, with 40% of certain federal investments being towards disadvantaged communities. As a result, the Upskill Prize has a focus on aligning education and training with manufacturing needs, and hopefully investing in areas and manufacturers investing in areas where they can achieve long-term growth of their own workforce and also provide benefits to communities as a whole and to the solar manufacturing industry as a whole. Next slide, please. So to restate our goals, we want to fill the workforce gaps that we've heard in the USPV supply chain industry, and also attract new individuals to enter that clean energy workforce. We want to promote partnerships between manufacturers and training organizations, and we want to create community and industry impact by addressing workforce challenges and opportunities. We want to help the manufacturing workforce have full of sustaining careers, family sustaining careers. We want revitalized communities, and we want to advance equity for historically underserved communities. As a result, we've put together this prize, and we hope to achieve those aims with the awards we eventually provide. I'll turn it back over to Rebecca to get more into the details of the prize operation.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Great. So I want to talk about, of course, submission requirements. So what are we going to ask you to provide to show that you've met the goals of the prize? First, I want to highlight please review the official rules of the American-Made Upskill Prize. They are available online. We'll throw that link in the chat, and you can find it all over our HeroX page. This is where all of the different details are written, like regarding submission materials, eligibility. It has a lot of answers to general questions that you may have. So please review these rules and make sure you're looking at the rules as you're building these submission materials. And I do want to just once again outline kind of the prize steps. So we say there's 4 steps to this prize. The first one being your submission. You're going to develop as a team your comprehensive workforce training plans to train current workers or attract and train new workers in partnership with a training organization. And you'll do this by completing the submission package and submitting them online before and by the submission deadline. Those submissions will then be evaluated. The prize administrator, which is myself, will screen submissions for eligibility and completion, and then we will assign subject matter experts, both internal and external, to the Department of Energy to score the content of each submission. And then after all of those submissions are reviewed, if selections are made, it will be announced, and we will reach out to anyone who is selected to send them their cash award. Just for ultimate clarity, DOE is the final judge, and they use the expert reviewer scores to make their decisions. And then finally, after we announce winners, following just the idea that there are multiple cycles for this prize, the next step is resubmission. So if you were not selected as a winner in the first round, pending there is still funding available, we will open a second round, and you can improve your submission based on feedback that you're given and then resubmit in the following cycle. Additionally, winning teams are also allowed to apply again in a future round, but they must answer an additional question in their technical narrative, which I'll cover briefly today. And so this is the submission package. Number one, I do just want to say we will have a submission template available on our HeroX page for you under our resources tab. This is just a sneak peek look at it. But the big thing that you'll be doing is completing a submission form on HeroX, where we'll ask all of the important information that we need of you, and where you'll be able to upload your materials. So we'll be asking for team information. We do note some of this will be public, so anyone will be able to find that information on your profile, but we are very clear about what is public and what is not public. You will be required to make a declaration of other funding or in-kind support you've received for training that the manufacturer is currently receiving, and it could be state or local government programs or other grants or prizes. That will not be made public. Then, of course, you have the technical narrative, which is what I would call the main part of the submission. That is the component that will be scored by our expert reviewers. That will not be made public. Then we ask for a summary PowerPoint slide. This one will be public, and then letters of commitment or support, which will not be public. And then we have room for supporting documentation. And so diving a little bit into each of these, this is a long list of what we're asking for team information. The public items are marked with an asterisk. But this is what we're looking for when you submit. So your project title, your team name, and then of course your lead organization name, whether that's the training organization or the manufacturing facility. And then of course all of the information associated with that lead organization. And then we'll ask for your key project members, which will include your partner organizations, and then of course contacts and names for all of them. And then we'll ask about your manufacturing facility. We'll ask for general information, what products you're doing, your workforce size, your location, all of that. And then the training facility information, which also includes location, staff size, and past experience. And then we'll ask for any other partners, because you may and probably will have multiple partners involved in your project. And then we'll ask you for a description of how funding will be allocated to each partner organization, which will be expressed as a percentage. As Jen mentioned before, you can split the prize payment up to 3 ways across your partners, and you will be asked about how you would make that split. And I will demonstrate that, what that will look like in our submission form. So the next big piece is that technical narrative. There are 4 questions that we ask you, and there is a word limit of 3,000 words. So the 4 questions, we ask about your manufacturing facility, job quality, and impact. What type of manufacturing organization will be receiving, implementing the training, and what are the long-term workforce development needs for this organization? Then we'll ask about your comprehensive workforce training plans and your partners. So what is your holistic approach to training, and how will the partners work together to develop a training and upskilling program solution? And then we'll ask for your specific workforce training plan and your budget. So you'll describe which elements of your comprehensive training plan, from question 2, you're proposing for the prize funding support. You'll describe your training partners, your timeline, your strategy, and your budget. And then we'll ask for your workforce diversity and support of disadvantaged communities. So how does this training program support low income and disadvantaged communities? So in the official rules, for each of these questions, we have it divvied up like this. So we give you suggested content that you provide. This is the specific content that we're asking for question 1, which is, again, what type of manufacturing organization will be receiving or implementing the training. And so where it's exactly that, what we're hoping that you provide. And next to that, in the official rules for each of these questions, we show you what is going to be scored. So a single score on a scale of 1 to 6 is provided that takes all of these statements into consideration. And so when you talk about the details of your organization and the support to the solar manufacturing facilities, we have a scoring criteria, multiple, that are based on that those statements that you make in the narrative. We also score on your current workforce and, of course, the future workforce that you're hoping you can advance skills for by training. So that is what all of the questions look like. We try to make it very clear exactly what we're looking for in the official rules. I'm not going to go over each individual question here today, so please be sure that you review the rules, review the requirements for each of these questions. And then I do want to touch on the 5th question. So if you win one of the rounds of the Upskill Prize and the prize remains open for an additional round, and you want to submit again, you will be required to submit the same materials, with the exception that if you have already won, your word limit will go up to 4,000 words, and you'll be asked to answer this 5th question, which is, what was the impact of your previous training program, and how will an additional prize award impact your continued efforts? And again, we give you the suggested content for you to provide, as well as what will be taken into consideration for scoring. The next material is the summary PowerPoint slide. So this is a public-facing 1-slide submission summary that is going to introduce your team or your organization, as well as your mission. There's no template for this, so you're free to present the information in any format that you wish. Please make it so that it can be shared in a conference room on a projection screen. So it should be at least 14-point font, and it needs to be submitted as a PDF. I will just make sure it's emphasized this is public. So please be sure you are only including information that you are comfortable being public on this slide. Any private information can go into the technical narrative or other private materials, but this will be public facing. And if you are selected as a winner, it may be used to amplify your team that you've won. Next are the letters of commitment or support. Jen mentioned this earlier, but you are required to obtain letters of commitment from each team member. So if the team lead is a US-based manufacturer, then a letter of commitment from a training organization is required, and vice versa. Please be sure that you read these fully. You are allowed to have additional letters of support from financiers, community-based organizations, trade organizations, governments, etc. Those are optional and not required, but again, you are required to have letters of commitment from each team member. And that's the US-based manufacturers as well as the training organizations. And we do have an additional upload for you to add supporting documentation. This is to support the narrative discussion, so answering your narrative questions. You can upload a single PDF of additional supporting documentation, but with no more than 15 pages. And I briefly touched on this, but we want to make sure you're aware of the review process. So after you submit, submissions will be scored by a panel of experts. Again, that is both internal and external subject matter experts to DOE. Reviewers will score each section as noted in the rules on a scale of 1 to 6, depending on the degree to which they agree that the submission reflects the statements. And each individual section score will be added together to generate a total score, and all the total scores from each reviewer will then be averaged for a final score, and that score will inform the judge's decisions on prize awards. Again, the final judge is DOE. As a note, DOE may decide to interview a subset of competitors. These would be held prior to an announcement and would just serve to answer any questions that need clarification. Participating in these interviews is not required, and it is not an indication of winning. Again, final determination of the winners by the judge, which is DOE, will take into account the reviewer's feedback and scores, application of program policy factors, which you can refer to in the official rules in the appendices, and the interview findings. So next, I'm going to give you a demonstration of HeroX, and I want to show you exactly what the submission form looks like. It is fairly large, so that's why we want to be sure you have as much clarity as you can going into this. So the HeroX page is just herox.com/upskillprize, and that will take you here. So here is the Upskill Prize on HeroX. I have already logged into my personal account. If you need to create an account, it's really easy. You can go to this page, just click the follow button, and it'll prompt you to create an account. From there, this is the view that you'll get. And so when you're interested in submitting or ready to submit, you can click Solve This Challenge. You will have to agree to the rules, which is what this agreement is for. So we'll click accept on that. And then you have the option to compete as a team. So first, I want to be completely clear. This is a function of the HeroX platform. This does not necessarily impact your submission. You can truly choose whichever of these buttons that you want to choose, and it does not make an impact on how your submission is scored or who is on your team. This is simply so that on HeroX, you appear as a team, but our team does not review this. We do have these instructions and clarifications under our resources tab in regards to forming a team on HeroX. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to say, yes, I want to create my own team. If I did this, I could send an email to anyone I want on my team. So maybe they're part of my manufacturer organization, or maybe it's the lead from my training organization partner. But this would allow them to join my team. I'm not going to add them right now, so I'm just going to accept the terms of the team agreement and click continue. You can view that team agreement. The next step that it gives you is competitor registration. So I know I've seen a couple questions asking about team members. HeroX does have a teaming capability. It is not always the easiest to navigate. I will just give you that heads up. But if I want to set my status as looking for teammates, I can click this. If I'm confident I have the team I need, I can click no, I am good for now. You can change this later if you decide you do want to be open or you want to close your team status. But if you click yes, then you'll just get to create your team. I'm just going to call it Rebecca's team. And then I could upload a logo. I could introduce my team and talk about what I'm looking for now. Just for the sake of speed, I'm going to write test. And now I have my team. So there's a couple options from here that I could do. I could go to invite, and again, it lets me invite people. And if we go all the way back, and you can always edit your team in here, which takes you to that team page, or you could delete your team as well. But we'll jump back over to the actual Upskill Prize. So now that I've clicked solve this challenge, there's a couple new options for me. I can view my team here and I can begin an entry. And under teams, it also gives me the option to leave this challenge or find a team. Additionally, I can see teams and innovators who have already signed up. But we're going to go to begin entry. So this is the submission form, and as you are getting ready to submit and as we approach that deadline, I highly encourage you to go in and start this form well before the deadline. It is lengthy, so you do not want to be waiting until the last minute to submit it. It will not let you submit if the 5 p.m. Eastern Time deadline mark hits. It will give you an error message that the deadline has passed. So definitely encourage you to get it in before that time. So you'll go in, you'll give your submission a title. This section, this box is publicly available. This is a HeroX default box, so only put in section 1 which you want for sure to be seen by other people. Next, it gives me the option to submit as a team, and it is connected to my team. And then we go into the eligibility acknowledgement. So here's where you confirm your eligibility. Are you a private entity, a non-federal government, or an academic institution? You then have to make some agreements. All of these are in the rules, so you can view them there, and then you'll digitally sign it with your signature. And then we get into the team section, which is definitely the section I want to go over with. So this first section is specifically for, so obviously you have your team name, but then you go into the lead organization. So this first section is whatever the lead organization is. And I should be filling these out just so we can make sure I can show you the next step. Okay. So lead organization name, this is the PV manufacturer or the training organization. The address, the 9-digit zip code. Please be sure to give us your 9-digit zip code. If you are selected as a winner, we report who has won to congressional representatives, and we need your 9-digit zip code to do this. We do provide a spot where you can look that up using the U.S. Postal Service. Also, please provide your URL. And then you're going to select whether you are the PV manufacturer or the US-based training organization. You'll give your short description, and then you'll give it all of your contact information. These are not public. This is so we can contact you if you win. Okay, and now the section I want to get to. So this is the section where you'll list your partner organizations. In this particular instance, we have given you the option to list up to 2. You are more than welcome to have more partners, but we only ask for the information for 2 because only up to 3 partners can be paid per submission. So you'll enter in the same information for each of your partner organizations. So I said I was a training organization. So this one would likely be a PV manufacturer, and maybe even I'd have a second PV manufacturer as an additional partner. And then you have an extra box where you can write in additional partner organizations if you have them. And then we get into the payment section. So this section is very important because it is how we process payments here and can get them to you as quickly as possible. So the more correct this information, the better, because the easier it is for us to get the payments out the door. So we ask you to put your payment entity name. In this case, we'll say that I am only going to have 2 partners. But so payment entity name number 1 would be my company. Please make sure that the name you are entering is the legal name. So it is what appears on tax documents. We will request a W-9 and an ACH form from you. And if the name on the W-9 does not match what is here, it will delay your payment as much as 3 months because we have to seek additional approvals to get it through for auditing. So make sure that it's correct. And then the second question here is please write the percentage that the entity will receive. So you do have the option to split your payment, which is likely a $500,000 award between teams. Now it isn't guaranteed that it is a $500,000 award. It could be less. So we ask you to reflect this as a percentage of that award. You will not be able to change this percentage if you are selected. So what you put here is going to be the amount that each entity receives if your team is selected as a winner. So if I want the PV manufacturer to receive 60%, I'm going to put 60% here. I will put my contact information, and then I will put the entity 2. And then the percentage of course, needs to add up to 100%. If I only have 2 partners, this would need to be 40, and then I'd have the contact information. And then I do, of course, if I have 3 partners that are splitting it, I can enter in that third one down here. Last, we do have some voluntary self-identification questions. We collect these for the American-Made challenges so that we can better understand diversity in our programs. These are totally optional. We would love to get your responses, but again, you are not required to answer these questions. And then at the very bottom, we have our submission package. So all of those pieces that I talked about, from your technical narrative to your declaration of funding, all of those are here. I do have to awkwardly upload things to get this to go through. Actually, maybe I don't. So if you go through and you enter in all of these questions, maybe you haven't put your materials together, you can click Save and Preview at any time. And what that does, we'll have to scroll all the way back to the top. It will tell you this is only a draft. So you will not be able to submit the submission until you have completed everything, completed all of the required boxes, and uploaded all of the required attachments. Once you do that, I'll just throw something in here. Yep, we'll upload the rules. Sure. You'll click Save and Preview. Hopefully I completed all the boxes. I did not. So yes, it will give you a heads up if you have errors. All right, so now that I've completed everything, it still tells me this is only a draft and I just have to click Submit Entry. And then it will display publicly on my HeroX profile. So if I click Submit, it has now been entered for judging. I can return to editing at any point in time up until the submission deadline. So once that submission deadline passes, I can't edit it anymore. But once you do click edit, it pulls it out of our submission queue so you can make any changes that you want to it. But for now, this one is submitted and it's good to go. And if we jump back here, it may be hidden right now. Nope, it should be there. It's not. But you would be able to see the entry there, generally speaking. So that is my HeroX demo. We will jump back over to our presentation. So we do have support for you in this prize. One thing that we have in the American-Made challenges is our American-Made network, and part of that are these organizations that we call power connectors. They are contracted yearly by our program to perform a variety of tasks that is very specific for each prize, and it is to help advance the program's success and provide assistance to you, as well as improving diversity and inclusivity in all of the American-Made challenges. And so we have contracted with ADL Ventures for the Upskill Prize. They are available to any competitor in the Upskill Prize with a focus on matchmaking and supporting the development of diverse workforce and quality jobs plans. So they'll support with your application if you have application questions. They can give you reviews, give you some feedback on it. They do not write applications for you, but they can review them. Additionally, they can help you with teaming and matchmaking. They will be doing general recruiting for us, and of course, they can answer general questions. We do have their contacts up here if you want to reach out to them, or you can just add their contacts now. You can also find their contacts on HeroX in multiple places. We put them all over the place to help you find them, but we want to make it as easy as possible. Last, once again, just flashing up these important dates. Follow that Upskill Prize on HeroX. You will get any updates that we release if you follow them. They'll pop into your inbox and let you know when deadlines are coming up, as well as any important information we need to get across will come to you via HeroX if you follow the prize. May 21st, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That is the first deadline to submit an entry. Again, work on that submission beforehand. Don't wait until the last minute to start that submission. As you can see, it is fairly lengthy and will take longer than 5 minutes for you to complete. So get a good head start on that. And then, of course, we anticipate announcing any winners that are selected for this first round in July or August. And we have an anticipated round 2 launch, ideally in the fall. And last, just some resources. You can follow the challenges on HeroX again. The rules are located there. They are also located on HeroX. If you have any questions that you have after today, please send them to upskill.prize@nrel.gov. You can get support from ADL Ventures and get to work, start partnering, and submit by May 21st. And so with that, we will head into our question and answer session. We have received a lot of questions today, so we'll try to get through as many as possible. So Tim and Jen, if you guys are ready, I'll just kind of go through these as they were received. I will note, if we do not answer your question, we will try to answer it, but if we can't get to it today, we will post all of the questions and all of the answers on HeroX on our forum. If it seems relatively private, we will message you personally about that question. So first question, what is the period of performance and does the award cover pre-award costs?
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I can take this one. And so this is, I think it's helpful to remember, prizes are structured differently from traditional government awards where there's not as much of a pure period of performance that is defined. Instead, you are submitting to the prize opportunity, and then if selected, you receive a cash payment. And there's no required follow-up reporting, like that cash is then yours. So that, you could conduct that training period for however long it takes you to, do it in a high quality manner. And that, of course, would need to be detailed in your proposal ahead of time, but there is not a defined or limit to how long that training period can be. Rebecca, anything you'd want to add to that?
I think you covered it very well.
I'll just add, related to a question further down, we do consider the sort of performance taking place in this prize to be the development of a comprehensive workforce training plan and a specific plan for training associated with the prize. That's the performance you're creating, that's what you're submitting, and then the prize is predicated on that training plan being comprehensive and demonstrating the criteria laid out in the rules. As for resubmission, there is an additional question required for resubmission if you are a previous prize winner and would like additional funding that describes the how the training went the first time and the impacts that it had. So that's sort of the nuance about period of performance. But as a prize, you are creating your plan, you are submitting it for review, and your award is meant to let you carry out that training plan.
Great. Next question. I might rephrase it. Are high school students eligible to apply?
Yeah, and this is related to another question further down, related towards getting younger kids interested in solar and manufacturing if part of the training program immediately helps fill the gaps or inspire, expose the workforce. The goal of this program and the intention for these comprehensive training plans is for direct hire of new workers or the training of incumbent workers for a manufacturer. The focus of training plans should not be on high school or early education of students. It's really meant to be directed towards those entering the workforce or already in the workforce.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
And I would just add to
go
that
ahead.
also, I think Tim touched on it, but just to really emphasize that a recruitment plan that, depending again on the needs of the manufacturer, that's focused on perhaps a local high school and recruiting interested folks like who are recent high school graduates, I think certainly could be in scope, again, depending on what the manufacturer needs. But again, the focus should be more on the recruitment and training, not on education of opportunities in solar, for instance, of those high school students.
Great. All right, next question. I'd say it's a two-part question. So I'll just start with the first part. Is it possible to use a small part of the available funding to upgrade the manufacturing equipment to modernize the processing while training the workforce for equipment upgrade approach and developing the training method and documentation? That's part one.
Yeah, so this would be presumably a common use case that we would see for this prize. A manufacturer is looking to upgrade their equipment, and their workers would need to be trained to use that new equipment. New processes are similar. The submitted budget, the requested amount for that prize, I'll emphasize as well, the prize is listed as up to $500,000 in prize amount, but a competitor does not need to hit that 500K mark. If they have a smaller amount that's necessary for the specific training they're proposing, that's completely fine. But back to the example, in the budget proposed for the training plan, we would not want to see equipment upgrades presented as part of the budget presented. We would only be looking to award funding for the training associated with that work plan. Presumably, the upgrade to the equipment would come from the manufacturer's other resources are similar. We're only looking to fund the training aspect of the use case.
All right, and I think that answers the second question. Okay. Will each of the rounds have the same goal and submission requirements?
While it is possible that rules will change slightly from round to round of the prize, it is our intention that the prize will share goal and submission requirements from round to round. As noted, when resubmitting to future rounds, there is additional information that you need to provide, but that's outlined in the rules now.
Great. Will you be putting together a list of people who might be interested in partnering?
Yeah, I can take this. I think that this is the perfect type of question to go to our Power Connector ADL Ventures with. They are going to be helping with matchmaking teams as part of this prize. And so, anyone who's interested as a manufacturer in participating or as a community, as a training organization in partnering, such as a community organization, we would direct you to ADL Ventures to potentially facilitate that matchmaking. The other mechanism available, like Rebecca mentioned, is through the HeroX prize page. There is a tool to help you matchmake and find, training partners or manufacturers to team up with. But I would encourage you probably to start with ADL Ventures. And I did see a question farther down about if there was a cost to the assistance from ADL Ventures. I just want to clarify that that is provided to all prize competitors. There is no associated cost with that.
Yes, I'll just reaffirm they are contracted with us. So competitors can engage with them essentially for free because we believe their support can help all of you advance and get your submissions in. right. Would a manufacturer with an HQ in Canada, but with manufacturing facilities in the US, be an eligible team member?
Yeah, I'll just read directly from the rules. A US-based PV manufacturer is a private entity incorporated in the United States that participates in the solar PV module supply chain. So if the manufacturer was incorporated in the United States as part of its business arrangement, then yes, it would be eligible.
And I'll emphasize, if it is not based in the US, there's additional eligibility that you can review in the rules regarding that status. You are, as a non-US based facility, eligible to be a team member. You may not be eligible to receive payment. Okay. Is the funding $5 million per round or in total until it runs out?
Yep, great question. So it is a total for the prize program as a whole. So we are offering up to, again, $500,000 per project. And again, want to really emphasize the up to, depending on the specifics of the applications we receive, that could be less. And depending on the number of selected submissions in a round, the $5 million pool for the program could be, the funding could be used sooner or later. So generally would encourage folks, if you are ready and feel you are meeting the eligibility criteria now, to probably apply to an earlier round rather than a later one. But that funding amount is total for the prize program, not per round.
Great. Tim?
Yeah, there's a question here in the chat that wasn't submitted to Q&A that I wanted to make sure we answered. A solar manufacturer in the US who is lead cannot also do the training for the new employees. It has to be with a training organization. It is our intention when developing this prize to form partnerships between manufacturing organizations and education and training organizations within the United States. So it is required in the rules and in the submission that a partner between a manufacturer and a training organization be part of the submission. Our thinking on those lines is that if a solar manufacturer had the capacity to train employees on their equipment themselves, then presumably they would not necessarily be in need of the funding provided by the prize. We are hoping to expand the capacity of manufacturers through these partnerships with training organizations.
Great. I just want to talk, there's a couple that just have questions about specific types of manufacturing. So Tim and Jen, if you just want to give it, I guess, just a yes or no, or any additional solar thermal manufacturing operations, would that be an eligible manufacturer?
Rebecca, we'll follow up on questions related to specific types of manufacturing in the FAQ or to individuals who've reached out.
Okay.
I think to that point, also to cover maybe some of the other like technology specific eligibility questions. So do want to emphasize broadly, this prize is focused on manufacturing opportunities and manufacturing workforce within the solar module PV supply chain. We're not looking at balance of systems. And so I think, and also not also looking at anything outside of manufacturing. So not looking at installations, of say utility scale solar construction, that sort of thing. So I think that maybe answers a few other of those questions in the chat. And yeah, we can also respond in writing for more specific, like technology specific eligibility questions.
Great. We're down to our last minute, so I'll close us out. If we did not get to your question, or if your question is very specific, if it's specific to a technology, specific to your organization, I highly encourage you to email us and we can respond to you directly over email. Again, that email is on the screen right now. That's upskill.prize@nrel.gov. please email us your questions. If we didn't answer your question and we do feel that we can post it publicly, we will post it onto our HeroX forum and FAQ page, so you can find it there. We hope to get those up in the next couple of weeks just so you can review them. Additionally, thank you all for joining us. We're very excited to have this prize launched and out there. Reach out to us with anything you need. Get started, form your teams on HeroX, sign up to follow HeroX, and reach out to ADL Ventures if you have any specific questions or are looking for application support or matchmaking assistance. But thank you all for joining us, and yeah, we're very excited.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.